What's up? What's up, Evan Redboard Homes? What's up, Marion Realtor Mom? Okay, there it is, Stephen. So this is birthed out of the audio difficulties at the very beginning of the show. I apologize. I had to reset my system. That's why I'm a little late today. If you're joining us live on one of these apps, though, like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you can comment. If you're on Instagram, I'll read out your username, give you credit, give you a shout out. If you are on YouTube, I'll display your comment. I can talk about you, Elizabeth Nightingale, or I can talk about your comment. She says, Happy Wednesday from Charleston, South Carolina. Let me know where you guys are coming from. Midway through the show, we're going to be talking about everyone's market because there's a lot of news. I don't know if you saw this report that said there's so many more listings available now than buyers that are in the market. And my question is, are you seeing this in your market? If you are seeing this in your market, what is it looking like? What's happening to the real estate market? What are you seeing for buyers? Are you seeing some concessions or not? Is there any impact from the August 17th, 2024 commission switch baked into what's happening in the market? So we're just going to have kind of an open discussion after we talk about some of the things that are going on in the industry. So definitely stay tuned for that. I think consumers may be really interested in that, depending on where you are around the country. We've got people from kind of all over that hopefully will be chiming in for us there. So real estate agents, stay tuned for that. I want to get your opinions. Either you could comment, drop a comment on it. If you're watching the replay, you could put it in the replay. But if you're joining us live, you can go over to Clubhouse and actually add your voice to the podcast. So the way to do that is just to raise your hand, let us know you're there, and we will make sure that you have a profile. As long as you have a profile, real bio, you look like a real person, we'll let you speak. And whatever you say, keep this in mind. We're going to talk about standards and practice 10-5 today. Whatever you say will last in perpetuity on the podcast, unless I have to edit it for obvious reasons. One announcement I want to make before we get into the meat of the show is that next week is that already a week? No, that 2 week. I can't do math. 7 + 4. Yeah. Next week I will be in Nashville. So June 12th, we have a Booked and Branded is the name of the little one-day conference in Nashville. It's at a really cool location too. The tickets are $99, super cheap. I'm going to be talking about 20 minutes on stacking chat GPTs. I've created several custom GPTs, and I'll be showing people how I'm using that in my business and what we're doing with it in real estate. And if you are a real estate agent or someone in the industry, and especially if you're in that area, I would strongly encourage you to sign up. And let me just share that Chrome tab for you guys. I'll also put this let me drop this in the chat boxes too. So there you go. There's the sign up. Just click that link, and hopefully I would love for you guys to join us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a little happy hour that I'll be leaving right out. I'm driving there. It's close. Nashville's close enough for me to drive, so that's kind of nice. But I know a couple of you are coming, so I'm excited to see some familiar faces there. Marie Lee is the one that's putting on the conference, and she's awesome. She's got an incredible brand, so she will be there. Brad McCallum is coming. We have some really dynamic speakers that'll be there. So y'all join us. What's up, Kevin Dewey? Kevin_DUY. Thanks for joining us over on Instagram. All right, I want to jump right into the articles for today. I mean, I feel like we've just been in so much controversy for the last 3 years, and it doesn't feel like there's an escape that's easy. I'm going to adjust my camera. So, okay, I am a professional. It doesn't seem to be an easy escape from the DOJ. But there's some news, and I guess you could consider this good news. The DOJ removes Nosalek's settlement objection with a strong warning. So the DOJ, I need to play hang on. You know, this is why we have the sound effects, so I can use them, but oh man. I'm not finding my court dun. I wonder if I replaced it. I need to oh no. Yes. All right, so the Department of Justice has withdrawn its objection to the settlement between the plaintiffs and the MLS Property Information Network, PIN, in the Home Seller Commission lawsuit known as Nosalek, according to a response the DOJ filed in the case Tuesday. The move by the government agency follows a home seller, plaintiff, and defendant, MLS Penn, submitting a fourth amended statement agreement last week, which stipulates offers of cooperative oh man. That stipulates offers of cooperative compensation. Man, I still can't say it even after, I just need that second cup of coffee today. They will be prohibited on the MLS Penn's platform. So they're taking off the offer of cooperative compensation from the MLS. Why does that sound difficult for me today? I don't know. Okay. Elizabeth Nightingale says, easy for you to say. Yeah, I know, right? So the move by the government agency follows home seller plaintiffs and defendants, MLS Penn, submitting a fourth settlement. So in the fourth settlement agreement, that's when they said, all right, we'll remove the cooperative compensation off the MLS. And it raises the proposed settlement fund from $3 million to $3.95 million. Wow. The same amount it would have cost MLS Penn to join the NAR settlement in Sitzer Burnett. So the real winners here, attorneys for MLS Penn. Yeah. Furthermore, even though the parties reached the proposed settlement, it does not mean they're shielded from, quote, future enforcement actions. This is what they did about the other settlement agreement that the DOJ put out there for us after we agreed to the settlement agreement with the DOJ. And then they kind of withdrew from that, saying, we may want to investigate you guys again. That's what they did to NAR. When I say us, I mean the National Association of Realtors. Because the proposed settlement was reached between private litigants in a private class action lawsuit, such settlement does not preclude any further enforcement action by the United States. Nor would compliance with the proposed settlement, nor the MLS Penn rules implementing that settlement afford a defense to any such enforcement actions. In other words, we can still come after you, even though you guys have settled, and you can't stop it, even though you guys have settled. So what does NAR President Kevin Sears have to say about this? Wait, hang on. That's the wrong one. Here it is. Wait, hang on. This is it. He says, DOJ thinks realtors make too much money. At a mid-year conference, Kevin Sears told brokers that he was cautiously optimistic about improving the trade group's relationship with the antitrust enforcer. He said, quote, if we have such good advocacy relationship with our legislatures and we do such a good job, why does that not transfer? And why are we not putting on some pressure? Oh, this is me, the chair of NAR's Broker Engagement Council. According to Sears, NAR had, quote, a rocky relationship with the DOJ last year because part of the trade group been suing the agency for the previous 4 years, and the settlement agreement the DOJ withdrew from. That's what we were just talking about. Sears told attendees that he met with the DOJ twice in D.C. and, quote, there was a clear lack of understanding of how we do business in some people that were in the room. They think we take advantage of the consumer, but we protect the consumer. Without the consumer, we don't exist. Why are we going to take advantage of them? So we explained to them about that. Oh, man, I would love to be in that room. I guess I have trust issues. I just don't trust that they did a good job explaining what we do. But hopefully they did. He said, Meek asked what the DOJ's issue was with NAR. Was it the association's clear cooperation policy? The DOJ currently investigating the CCP, which requires listing brokers to submit listings to realtor affiliated multiple listing services within 1 business day of publicly marketing them. Quote, we make too much money, Sears said, prompting murmuring among attendees. We make too much money. That's it. I said I represented 1.5 million entrepreneurs who choose to wake up unemployed every day, but it's through their hard work by representing their clients and consumers that they can earn a living. But Sears said that was last year. I'm cautiously optimistic this year. So if anybody is reporting on this, he paused, prompting laughter from the audience. Ultimately, what I'm looking for is world peace. Oh, man. What's up, Realtor Kimberly, man? Hey, over there on Instagram. Okay, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, but that's a gripping headline. NAR President DOJ thinks realtors make too much money. I want to go back to this one too. Kevin Sears said hate speech change is unrelated to Trump. So I'd love to get your opinions on this. We've talked about, you know what I need to do? I need to do the content, the background guy, the context guy. If some of you watch Asmongo, because this hate speech thing, the 10-5 has been since 2020, and there's a whole litany of cases now about this that we just kind of need a full summary of. So maybe I'll work on that this week. But NAR President Kevin Sears says hate speech change is unrelated to Trump. CEO Nakia Wright denied what she called a rumor that she had dismantled DEI and said Sunday that its mid-year event and NAR has to pick our bets due to an expected membership drop in to 1.2 million. Sunshine Life Realty chimes in on YouTube and says, too much money. We pay so many outrageous fees. I know, right? But nope, you make too much money. All right. Drop in the comments, consumers. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do real estate agents make too much money? And agents, do you make too much money or not? Let me know. I know the fees that Sunshine Life Realty is talking about, but I think a lot of the consumers have no idea. Okay, the National Association of Realtors is not considering changes to its hate speech policy due to President Trump's stance against diversity, equity, and inclusion, but rather to mitigate its own legal risk. NAR President Kevin Sears told attendees at the NAR mid-year conference Sunday morning. Sears and NAR CEO Nakia Wright kicked off the session called Leadership Scoop. In their leadership update, Sears and Wright focused on the NAR happenings, including the lasting potential changes of Realtor Code of Ethics and a $32 million drop in revenue expected from a membership drop. Shanita Johnson said the joke of the century that we make too much money. Elizabeth Nightingale says we pay too much money. And she goes on to say, I, for one, would like to make too much money. I'll have what she's having. Yeah, it's true. Well, among us. Ray. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Ray.
Oh, this is an appraiser, everyone.
No, it's Scap. And I just want to tell you, you make way more money than I do. That's all I wanted to say.
That's true, man. I don't think it's too much, but yeah.
No, you guys make a good amount of money, and I make my money. But still, at the end of the day, you make a lot of money compared to what I do. So I just compare it to what you guys do. So at the end of the day, I think it's kind of like equal for what we do. But yeah, you make a lot of money.
I mean, I do have to sit with clients for sometimes 60 to 90 days and get paid like a couple of grand. Whereas you could do 4 appraisals and get that, right, Scap? Or maybe 1 appraisal, depending on the size of the home.
Well, okay. Well, it depends. I mean,
takes maybe a couple of days. For you to do that.
If I'm doing an appraisal for Matt LaMarche, I mean, hell, I can make like $1,000 in one day.
Yeah, put that joker on the back burner too.
Yeah. But if I'm doing it for Matt, I can make $1,000. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it just depends. I mean, we it depends on what we do and how many jobs and the size and everything else. But I mean, look, I'm not going to be like the ever-loving realtor appraiser here. You guys make a lot of money for what you do, and you guys do a lot of stuff. You do a lot of things that nobody else can do out there, and a lot of things that I just can't do. I mean, yeah, I analyze, I do things, but I mean, at some point, I mean, I wish I could make, as much as you guys do, depending on what I do, but that'll never happen.
I think it's, great point, Main House Values. What's up? He says, perhaps the attorneys at the DOJ make too much money. I think we could all agree.
Wait. We just said Matt LaMarche's name and he appeared. My God.
Did we say it? And did we say it 3 times that fast? I didn't know he would appear like that off of just once or twice. Well, let me say this, because I know there are probably consumers listening to this, maybe watching this. I know we have investors that listen and download the podcast. I even have clients that listen to it. And let's say we're quote unquote making $8,000 off the sale of a property. That sounds pretty good, right? $8,000. But in that $8,000, oftentimes real estate agents have to pay some percentage to their real estate brokerage. And at Real, it's a little bit less, but let's just estimate 20%. So if they're starting with $8,000 and they're having to give up 20% off the top, they're left with $6,400. That's still a pretty good amount. But in order to sell a listing, oftentimes you have to market the property. And especially, which we'll get to this during the what's going on in your market talk and in the news reports lately, if there are listings that have been sitting on the market for a long time, then you can bet that in order to be competitive, both in obtaining the listing and in marketing the listing to sell, you're going to have to spend some money. So what we find is the average house, we're spending maybe around $2,000 to $3,000 to market the property, to get it the decent amount of exposure. And that includes creating content, videography. And then once you have that content, from 360 tours, whatever it is, once you have all that content that you've created and photos and such and drone videos and all that jazz, now you have to turn around and pay to get that content in front of someone else. And that ranges from $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000, depending on the property. So let's just assume in this case, a $2,000 hit. So if we are, let's see, so that's $4,400 is left there. Okay, that's still a good amount of money, but we also haven't gone over the acquisition cost of the client where, I am either spending money or sometimes paying a substantial referral fee, depending on where the lead came from. But that acquisition cost can sometimes be around 20 to 30%. So we were conservative with the marketing cost. So let's go a little bit higher on the acquisition cost and say maybe it cost around 30%. So total, we are at around $2,000. So an $8,000 check can be easily cut down to around 2,000, maybe 3,000 if we were a little more conservative for your average agent. But if you have a team that you have to pay, hang on, I'm not done. If you have a team you have to pay, then you could also subtract that $8,000 off the top by 50% or whatever you're paying your team. Which means now, in order to make it, you have to convert buyers from the listing in order to make the listing marketing worthwhile. So there is a lot that goes into it. And the average consumer is kind of looking at the end of the ground paycheck, but that's not net. That's our gross. And sometimes the net is gross. You know what I'm saying? And then we have what, 87,000 IRS workers that are going to be looking at those tax docs to make sure that the government gets their cut too. So I'm not complaining. It's a good job, but it's definitely a volume job most of the time. So,
well, here's what I was going to say, right? I mean, coming from an appraiser standpoint, I mean, look, I make my 450, 500, 550 plus, whatever I do per job. Okay. But my job is very much like, here's the numbers. Okay. I'm coming out to your house to see it. I'm spending time there to measure your house, get everything together, do what I got to do, and then go home and then do the report and get that together. So I base my fee on the time I believe it's going to take me to actually do the job and everything. Now, you as an agent, look, it ain't going to take you maybe 1, 2, 3 days to sell a house. It might take you 13, 14, 25 days, whatever. You have to do a lot of transition in what you do. So I'm not one of those appraisers that says, well, shit, these agents, they don't do really anything and they make a ton of money. They make 3% off this and whatever. Yeah. No, because I understand what it is that you have to do and how you have to do it. And I'm making a flat fee because literally I'm doing my job one day and then it takes me 2 or 3 days to put the report together and then send it off to you. And in total for like a good, decent appraisal, I would probably say I spend about eight hours, I would say, is what I spend on that. So if I'm making no, I wouldn't even say 8 hours. I'm probably spending about 6 hours. But if I'm actually making anywhere between 450, depending on the house, to and upwards, depending on the size of the home and how much time I'm spending. Like, for instance, today I just did a house that was 6,500 square feet in Milton, Georgia. That's on the market that's being, sold for 1.5 million. I spent almost 1.5 hours measuring this home because it was really weird. And then I had to drive back home. And now I'm going to probably spend probably about another 5 hours on this report. So I'm making good money. I'm charging $100 for this report. I'm going to make good money off this, but I don't have to deal with the crap that you guys have to deal with in between, calls, this, that, 100%. Offers, contracts, this, that.
The appraisals being wrong.
I can understand why. No, my appraisals will never be wrong. But I'm just saying, like, I can understand. I can totally understand where you guys make your money because it's time. Yeah. Time is where you make your money. It's not just list a house, put it on the market. Oh, it sells. And no, there's a lot of time that goes into it prior to what you do. And then even after what you do, there's a lot of time that goes into it. So I get that and everything. I just wish that I could make that 3% as well, or make like a percentage off it, because that would be great for my business.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I appraise them for 500,000. I get 3% as well. I mean, why not? I mean, great. But at the end of the day, I think what you do is great and whatnot, but it's just, you guys have a lot of like unheard of investment or underlying needs investment that goes into this than compared to what I do.
Cool.
Well, and I think too, I think a lot of people in the general public think that our companies are paying us a salary, or we get an hourly wage from our company, and then everything that we make from the client is commission over and above that. So I think there's a total misconception about how the public thinks we get paid in general.
I also think that a lot of
an awful long time and get zero if it doesn't close.
There's also a lot of agents that aren't worth it, even because they don't have the marketing expenses. They are just putting a sign in the yard and they're not doing what they should be doing. And they're not, they have commission breath and they constantly are telling me, oh, just offer something. My seller will take it. I'll tell them to take it. So not everyone is worth it anyway. All right. So let's go back. I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about this. I thought this was more interesting than I think y'all may not think it's interesting at all. The NAR President Kevin Sears hate speech change rule. So y'all know, we covered this, but Texas is trying to pass a law that says associations, businesses, and such can't pass a rule that is basically against the law. In other words, if something is allowed, you can't kick somebody out of your organization for doing something that's legally allowed. Specifically as it regards to speech. Now, where this came all about 9 years ago, was it 9 years? Wait, how long ago was this? Let me get the right date. I feel like 9 years ago is too long. Has it really been that long since we've been dealing with this? Yeah, 2015. Virginia realtor and pastor Wilson Faber posted a Bible verse on Facebook stating homosexuality was a sin. Nearly a decade later, the Virginia Association of Realtors found it to be a violation of NAR's Code of Ethics, citing policy on hate speech, this 10-5 standard of practice. Byron and Nicole have this discussion on their show, and I don't disagree with what he says. He does say, which kind of can be misconstrued in this article, but he does say at the end, just because you say whatever you want doesn't mean there's going to have impact your business. Well, yeah, obviously, but I also don't think he means that the NAR should be able just to boot people for stuff like that. So the issue now is, said now Faber could lose his real estate license. That's a step too far, I think, because he didn't do anything currently illegal. He said it's fair enough to point out that Faber's decision to post that verse in particular would alienate those who disagree with him. But Rob Hahn, notorious ROB, which we talked about, I think, last week, so you can't really call it hate speech as such. It's not harassing speech to an individual. So what Kevin Sears has said, because that was 9 years ago, and they have been in a big legal battle. They will be in a big legal battle around this and several other cases like this. So Kevin Sears says, all right, well, we have to pick our legal battles. So NAR is considering changing its hate speech policy called Standard Practice 10.5, which prohibits realtors from using harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, national origin, sexual origin, or gender identity. One proposed change would include creating a more specific definition for what counts as harassment. That's part of the problem. Another would be to change the policy's applicability so that realtors would be encouraged or not, but not required to follow the policy in all of their activities. So I have a couple of friends that are real estate agents and also comedians. And comedians, especially now, do well saying obviously racial things and things that would go directly against NAR's speech policy. And if you're a real estate agent and you're a comedian, on the side, you're in danger of losing your license. Clearly, even though you could say it's quote unquote a joke, there's nothing about that says it can't be a joke. And if somebody takes it wrong and comes after you for it, then I think you're toast. Also, what is to say familial status? All right, well, what if I do a Facebook post for dads out there and make some funny jokes about being a dad, and some dad gets offended and then turns me into ethics saying, well, this guy's against dads? I don't have a leg to stand on, because it says harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on, so I could do a dad life type slur or harassing speech of some sort because it's not defined and it's based on familial status. So now I'm in trouble. That doesn't make sense. What if I make fun of my own national origin? That's done all the time. And somebody gets offended and turns you in. Now you can't make a living. This was bound to fail from when they first put it into practice. It's bound to fail. Kimberly Mann says, realtor _ Kimberly _ man with 2 N's. 100%. Some of this is why I love my brokerage, but I don't want to be a member of NAR anymore. Yeah. It's I think this the over policing just puts some fear into people. The other thing to discuss that I wanted to bring up is that, basically the reason why they're doing this is quote unquote, not because they don't believe in it, but it's because they don't want the legal battles right now. They're picking their bets is what they said. I think they're picking their battles would be more apropos. For some reason around the country, there's a rumor that I have single-handedly dismantled DEI, Nakia Wright said, prompting some chuckles in the audience. I don't know if people see my complexion or recognize me as a woman, she added, prompting more laughter, but that could not be further from the truth. What we are continuing to do internally is to make sure that we have the best-in-class staff to get us through today's transactions and tomorrow's transactions. So this is, it may be parsing words, but I have an issue with this too. So these are the two main things they talked about, and both of them I just could do without. I mean, I want racist people to stand up and say they're racist, so I know not to do business with them. If they're hiding it, now I'm supporting a racist without knowing they're a racist, and that's not fair to me. They should be able to say what they want, and then I should be able to choose whether or not to do business with them, period. On the DEI, the fact that she says, I don't know if people see my complexion or recognize me as a woman, tells me that she doesn't really understand the social construct around DEI currently and how people are viewing DEI, because it doesn't really have anything to do with her complexion or her as a woman. It has more to do with her qualifications. And if she was selected because of her complexion and her as a woman, in her own words, then she would be a DEI hire, which is incredibly negative right now in society, in the culture. I don't think that's why she was selected. I think she had some experience. She was there and close to the board. I can't remember her exact qualifications, but we went through them before, and she seemed pretty well qualified. She was an interim for a while and then made the official, I believe, the CEO of NAR. So I'm not saying she's not well qualified, but what I'm saying is this qualification of herself is odd, because it's not, the DEI thing is not about someone's complexion or their gender. It's about only selecting someone based on an immutable characteristic when there are other characteristics available. And she says, what we are continuing to do internally is make sure we have the best staff to get us through today's transactions, tomorrow's transactions. That is antithetical to DEI. That is not DEI. DEI would say what we are continuing to do is internally is to make sure we have the best in class staff who represent the various diversity, equity, inclusion people. I mean, so this is not a DEI statement. So she's saying on one hand that she's not dismantling DEI because of her complexion and that she's a woman. And on the other hand, she's saying exactly what opponents of DEI suggest. Make sure we have the best in class staff, no matter what they look like. So I don't know. It's a weird, it doesn't make sense to me why she would say it, how she said it, other than maybe they're trying to really walk the middle of the road. Maybe they had some of that tested so that they could get Democrats and Republicans both in their favor for housing rulings that are coming up. I mean, that's supposedly a big focus of them. I just thought it was weird. It was a weird way to state it. And it didn't, it's not, number one, like it's a misunderstanding of what DEI is. It appears in both what she says she's going to do and what she said people should note her complexion and her being a woman as a reason why she would be a proponent of DEI instead of an opponent of it. Anyway, that's my take. Let me know your thoughts on this. I just thought it was weird. It's a weird thing for leadership to go out and espouse. All right, we have another NAR thing. NAR may rescind no commingling rule this week amid DOJ scrutiny. So the DOJ, man, they're all over the place. The commingling policy means that we could not list homes that are for sale by owner or other homes alongside in the same feed as our IDX feed or feeds from the multiple listing service. So NAR is thinking about rescinding that. It seems like Zillow has just ignored them in that. So if they're not going to enforce it, they can't maintain it as a rule for sure. And if they're not going after Zillow for the recent change in commingling listings on their website, then I mean, how can you not get rid of it as a policy unless you're prepared to sue Zillow or kick them out of the NAR? So I just wanted to mention that. Y'all could go look at that. There's several stories on it, but okay. Let's talk. Let me bring up this Clubhouse folks and people that are in the comments. What's up, Matt? Let's talk about your market. What is happening in your markets around the country? And I'll start so you kind of can hear what I'm looking for as far as information goes. Here's what we're seeing locally. Homes that are priced well, maybe just slightly under market value, that are cute, they have what I call a cuteness factor, and they're ready to go. They're priced right, they look right, they smell fine. The lot is fine. There's nothing weird about the lot. Those homes are hitting the market and they're selling fairly quickly. I would say in a week to maybe 30 days. Homes that, and this is in the lower end, homes that in the lower end aren't priced correct or the condition is bad, they're taking a long time to sell. On the upper end of the spectrum, homes are sitting longer in the luxury markets here, and it's taking longer to sell. People are getting more concessions. There's more price reductions, more price drops than we've seen in a long time in that luxury market. And there appears to be more inventory across the board from luxury to the lowest homes in our market to choose from. So buyers right now hate hearing this because rates are so high, but it is an incredible time to buy. And I mean, we're basically calling it deal making season because a buyer can step out and purchase a home, get their closing costs paid, get some concessions along the way. And they can do an inspection, they can do an appraisal, and they can get some concessions there as well. In our market, they don't even have to put down earnest money for the most part, and they can purchase a home. The downside of that is that the rate is 6.5%, 7%. And that tends to be scaring away a lot of buyers. And so because the buyers are being scared away, and it is the season that it is, we're seeing more inventory come on that's sitting, and it's more inventory than we've seen in a long time. So what's going on in your markets around the country? I've got a couple of people in Clubhouse. Elizabeth, are you there? Can you talk to what's happening in your market?
I have a very micro market. So we've got some extremely high priced areas.
Where are you? Tell everyone where you are.
Oh, hi. Not everybody knows. What? I am in Charleston, South Carolina. And we have a lot of beach areas that have their own marketplaces. And we've got a very high priced downtown area. And we've got some very expensive suburbs, way above the national average. And then we have some areas that are in our marketplace, but they've kind of got an industrial workforce. And they're less than half the cost of some of these areas I just described. So it's a very micro market. But in general, in these areas where we've got a lot of industrial facilities for employment, we've got a ton of new construction that has been brewing for the last 7-8 years. And it's basically squashed the resale market. So if somebody bought a home, I've got a client who bought a home in October and in a brand new construction neighborhood. And unfortunately, they're in a position where they have to sell. They're moving to another state. And we can't sell it. We can't even get anyone to look at it because the builder is going to discount way below what he bought it for last year, just because they've got to move properties. And that's exactly what the builder told me. We have to sell. So we will be very competitive.
Wow.
So those houses are sitting. But what is selling, to your point, is exactly right. If it's cute, if it's priced right, if it's in a very desirable area that people have been virtually stalking,
yeah,
and it's ready to go, those are gone. But that's a needle in a haystack kind of a situation, or a few needles in a haystack. It's just kind of painful because, to the article's point, it does feel like there are a lot more sellers than buyers right now.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd love to hear what other people are saying.
I know. Let's see. Terry, Scap, Matt, are any of y'all available to chime in?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Hey, it's been a minute. I'm sorry I've missed the show here, but Scott's been keeping me busy.
Of course, Matt's available. I mean, I just had to do an appraisal for Matt to make sure that he can actually sell a home. But go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Well, I heard these houses sell themselves, and I'm not needed anymore. So
that's right.
Interesting to hear. Not from Scott, just from everyone. Clients or new clients to them have been recently quoting this rescind thing to what Elizabeth was just touching on, but. In the last week, I've met with 3 new buyers and 2 new sellers that both said, well, I read this Redfin article that said, and I was like, who emailed that to everyone on planet Earth? Because it's not true. So there's not much different here, I think, between like what Elizabeth was just saying about Charleston. And obviously Atlanta geographically is a much larger area than Charleston, but a lot of the same. We're seeing the tale of 2 markets still. Overpriced listings, getting price reductions every week because people, terrible listing agents, have overpromised and are just struggling to deliver anything. And so that's market number 1. Market number 2 is priced appropriately, getting 5 to 10 offers, still going 50, 75, $100,000 over ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, not a huge change, at least from what I can tell, to like last year. It was surprising to see as many bidding wars, I think, on some of the homes. But contextually, those homes are move-in ready. They are perfect. And I often question what those people are going to go buy, because like Elizabeth said, that is one out of every like 150 homes I feel like I look at. It's a very small percentage. So yeah, that's Atlanta, Georgia.
Hot Atlanta.
No,
actually.
I'm gonna actually agree with Matt on that, because that's exactly what
Someone take a picture. Someone take a
No,
picture.
no, that's exactly what I'm seeing. I mean, and it depends on what part of Atlanta you're in, because Atlanta is such a big area. So it really depends on where you are. But there are some areas that have actually decreased in value, and you're seeing the trends decreasing because of the fact that there's just a majority that area has, 30 homes on the market at this point in time, where there's other areas that, they're still good, and you're still getting multiple offers, or you're still getting a little bit of an increase because it's an area that is commanding that. So it really just depends on what that micro market is and where you're at that you're going to see it. So like, I did one in South Atlanta the other day, and there was a decrease in value of probably about like 0.004% per month over the last like couple of months. So it's starting to go down. But then I just did one, yesterday up in Milton, Georgia, and that was actually still seeing an increase of about 0.005% per month, month over month up in that area. So it really depends on your micro market. It really depends on where you're looking at. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm seeing as well in these markets.
That's interesting. Terry, are you available?
Yep.
All right. What market are you in, and what's it look like? What's going on?
I am in Eastern Pennsylvania, outside of Philly.
Okay.
And we're seeing a lot more price reductions, which is interesting, but we're still seeing things. Once they're at the right price, we're getting multiple offers, and then it's getting back up to where it was. So you just have to find that sweet spot that says, let's bring the people in, and then they're going to compete against each other.
Yeah.
And are still, I think some of the sellers are still getting what they want out of it. We don't have a lot of homes sitting very long either. I mean, if it sits for a week and a half, that's long. There's still a lot of them are flying off if they're priced right and in good condition. They're still flying off on a weekend.
Okay. huntandlist.realestate says on Instagram, Portland, Oregon market is still moving quickly for homes that are presented well with multiple offers. Brian_in_Ligon, Ligon on Instagram says, I agree. If the home is super cute, smells nice, it sells overnight. I'm in a vacation area, Destin, Florida. Oh, interesting. Florida. We've been hearing about so many depressed situations in Florida, but I would agree that that is a very popular vacation destination. So it probably has a different market than the rest of the state for sure. PSGP.Terrence Clark on Instagram says, are buyers agents encouraging their buyers to simply make offers that make sense for them? Yeah, that's what we are doing. We are, if we have a client that likes a property, we're not discouraging any offers. And we kind of, to be frank, we never were. We would tell people what's happening. We would tell people about the multiple offers. We would educate them on what we see happening often in the market. But ultimately, if they wanted to go in lower, we write the offer because that's what they want. Sometimes we were surprised, but most of the time we knew how that was going to end. But yes, it is a situation right now in which buyers can sometimes put an offer in, depending on the seller situation, they may take it. Brian_in_Ligon says, I'm probably saying your name wrong. My apologies. Closing costs are getting covered as well. Yes, that's what we're seeing as well. What's up, Jack? Jack just came in on Instagram over there too. All right. So if you're coming to the replay, or if you've just joined Clubhouse, we're just talking about markets around the country before I get into the economic news. Just asking y'all if y'all are seeing the same thing. So if you're watching this on the replay or if you're listening on the podcast, a lot of the podcasts, we have lots of podcast listeners. Actually, the vast majority of our audience are podcast listeners. So if you're listening on the podcast, I don't really mention to you to go over somewhere else and engage, but this time I'm going to ask you to go over to YouTube, search tWiRE, This Week in Real Estate, Ray Ellen, and look for episode 319. And if you could drop a comment about what's happening in your market, and just note that you listen on the pod. Memphis Living with Shanita. Shanita, are you going to the Booked and Branded? You better be going. I mean, I'm driving from Little Rock. You can drive from Memphis. She says, definitely an increase in seller concessions. Okay. That's right in line with what we're seeing as well. Jack, all Marblehead is his Instagram, says, pockets of busy, pockets of slow, mostly by price brackets, but conditions still winning. Oh, good. You're coming. Yay. I get to meet you in person, Shanita. Okay. Matt LaMarche is now over. Also, he's in Clubhouse, he's on YouTube, and he's on Instagram. So I appreciate the triple view day, Matt. Okay, you guys still make your comment.
For lost time. Trying to make up for lost time.
Yes.
I'll get on LinkedIn in just a moment. But
yeah, I appreciate it.
But one thing, a lot of people are saying, oh, there's more buyers now. I think those buyers have always been there. I just think a lot more of them now are picking up their activity because they're seeing more homes that fit their criteria. And they still may be terrible homes or in lackluster condition. But for me, I've had a lot of buyers that I've been working with for like 6 months now, 8 months now. And, a lot of my business is relocation and referrals from like other agents. And a lot of those people are like, we got to be somewhere by July 31st. And it's like, all right, that's like 2 months away. So we got to get going on this thing. But for a lot of my sphere of influence people and referrals from my sphere of influence, they've been here the entire time. They haven't gone anywhere. And they adopted the idea that 7.5 or 7.25 was going to be their new interest rate. The problem was we just didn't see a lot of inventory. So now here 6 months, 8 months, 10 months later, when they started looking last year, now they're like, well, we got more options and we feel better about the 7 or 7.25 or 5.75 or where, depending on the hour. But I'll say I was out with some buyers yesterday, and when you can show them the state of the market in one single cul-de-sac, that I think is very powerful. Because I don't like to look at a ton of homes. If we're going out to look, these are like 8s, 9s, and 10s for me. 7's not an option, and 6 and below is a waste of everyone's time. And so if we're out looking, we're looking at 8s, 9s, and 10s. And 8s could be, it's just not priced appropriately for the condition or the market or the area or whatever. But we would still be interested in placing an offer. A 9 is going to be a little bit further down the path. Maybe it's priced, a little more aggressively. Maybe it needs some updating, minor stuff. But they've figured that into their budget. And then a 10 is, we're writing an offer this afternoon as soon as they get back to the office or to the house. And so I showed these buyers Monday, and the same cul-de-sac, one of them was an 8, but it needed a lot more work than what we could see from the pictures. And then literally next door, a house that was $150,000 more, completely move-in ready. I mean, not a thing. You just bring your stuff in and you're done. That's the major difference. And so when they can see that in a single cul-de-sac or in a single afternoon, now it starts to make more sense for them because we're seeing it every single day.
Have you guys ever been to court to prove value on a deal?
Mm-mm.
No, I'm not getting any no yeses. Okay. I'm going to court. I'm going to court tomorrow to prove value on a probate deal where the judge is like, this should have sold higher. And I mean, I can prove it with the numbers that there's no way it's going to go higher. And we are lucky to get what we have. And we've only gotten that because of the marketing and all that kind of stuff that we put out there. But it is interesting because it's taken so long that we accepted the contract. It was almost 60 days ago or longer. and it's taken so long to get through the court and approvals and all that jazz that now the market looks different than it did. Now it's not much higher at all, maybe a couple of thousand, but it is slightly different than what it was when I first looked at the property. But we're not seeing, so this home in particular is just, it needs a lot of work. And because of that, it's selling considerably lower than other homes on the market that didn't need a lot of work. And I know that's going to be the basis of the question. It's like, why is this so much lower? It's like, well, I mean, it's a full remodel. And what I would have looked at as a incredible opportunity, maybe as a first-time home buyer, other people currently look at this and are like, why would I do that when I can go spend $20K more and get something that I don't have to touch? Why would I do that and spend $20K more when I could just get new construction for that? And that is a standing issue in our market. Condition is super sensitive. I think I just saw Jack talk about that. Buyers are more patient. Home inspections are back and deals are more fragile. Yeah. If it's not in great condition, it's going to be rough. Brian _in_Ligon says, thanks, Ray. You've dropped so many gems on Clubhouse. Oh, thanks, man. And Insta. I kick myself when I can't find your replays. Oh, man. Subscribe to that YouTube and all the replays are there. But thank you, dude. LinkedIn as well. It's not letting me show it. Oh, there it goes. Big time doctor. Elizabeth said we are at pre-pandy inventory levels. We as in your area or we as in the country? All right, let me get to this economic news. This stuff out that we're not using anymore. All right, let's talk econ. So you just heard from agents around the country saying what it feels like, what's happening in their market. They have some data. This is what the news is saying is happening. And sometimes that matches, and that's real interesting. Sometimes it doesn't match, and that's even more interesting. So here's what we have for this week. Mortgage demand drops for the third straight week, even as interest rates ease. Mortgage rates fell slightly this week, but it did nothing to spur mortgage demand. Total mortgage application volume dropped 3.9%. Applications to refi a home, which are most sensitive to weekly rate movers, still declined 4%. Applications for mortgage purchase fell 4% for the week. That sounds like a huge drop from week to week. But listen to this. They're 18% higher than the same week a year ago. So while this sounds like, oh, it's terrible, mortgage applications dropped 4% for the week. Yeah, but they were still 18% higher than they were last year. So we have more people applying. They're just not pulling the trigger. And I think we're starting to see more inventory because there are just people out there that have to move. This article is on Redfin. It says U.S. home purchases were canceled at the second highest April rate on record. And this speaks to exactly what Jack was talking about. The deals are more sensitive. 1 in 7 home purchase agreements fell through last month. That share was higher in many parts of Florida, which is home to 5 of the 10 metros with the highest cancellation rates. Redfin agents say that a deal is on shaky ground. It can be an opportunity to outbid buyers to get a backup offer position. Oh yeah, that's not bad advice. So one of the things that we tell our clients, if they're interested in a home and it's already under contract, if the property has not been inspected, the best thing they can do is make a really good offer, because suddenly that seller becomes very difficult for the current buyer to deal with. Suddenly that seller's like, I'm not doing any repairs. I'm going to take this backup offer. And that's how to win on those deals, is have a really good backup offer put in place. Roughly 56,000 U.S. home purchase agreements were canceled in April. That's equal to 14.3% of the homes that went under contract that month. That's up from 13.5% a year earlier, and the highest April share dating back to 2017, with the exception of April 2020, obviously. Didn't we say recently it was up to 16? Yeah, there's 16%. 16.2%. So in October of 2022, cancellations were sitting at 16.2%. And then October of 2023, cancellations were up to 16%. But this is up, let's see, December of 2024 was 14.3%, or I'm sorry, was 15.3%. And now we're sitting just 1% below that high at 14.3%. So it is higher. The most recent low was in March, was 13.0%. So that's the most recent low. It hasn't gotten below that since, or even close to that since, let's see, May of 2022, when it was at 11.9%. So we've been riding this high cancellation wave for a little while. And for context, in 2019, let's see if I can find April of 2019, it was 11.3%. So it was about 3% lower than what it is now. I mean, you could say 3% is not that, it's not a trend, but since 2022, it has been solidly higher. So we'll see what happens. Lots of canceled deals. All right, what's happening in luxury? Luxury pending home sales fell 10% to the lowest April level in over a decade as the stock market volatility sidelines wealthy buyers. There are a lot of wealthy buyers that would have just taken some money out of the stocks and purchased a home. They don't really want to do that when the stocks are down. So they're not going to make those moves whenever they feel like the market's going to go back up. They're going to wait till it goes back up and then make those moves. Luxury homes, luxury prices rise faster than non-luxury. That could also be one of the issues. They may be seeing these prices go up, wondering why. There was a presidential candidate that used to say that. Who was that? Oh, man.
It wasn't Pat Buchanan, was it?
No, it wasn't Pat Buchanan, and it wasn't Ross Perot. Ross
I can
Perot
see
was
his
like,
face,
can I
though.
finish?
Yeah.
The guy that used to say why was around. Who was John Kerry's running mate? Running mate. Who was that? Yes, John Edwards.
Edward.
Yep.
Edwards.
He used to say why. So I don't know why I remember that, but it's a thing. Now when I say why, I often repeat it and say why, just like him. Am I the only one that says that? Maybe. Edwards, why? All right. Oh yeah, he had a lot of. I just Googled his name. There's a lot of dirt on that guy. All right, I'll keep going. The chart.
Welcome to the ADD podcast.
Yeah, ADD for agents.
There goes the shiny squirrel. Hey, look at that.
What's up, Ian of Austin? He joined us on Instagram though. Coach Kaima is over on Instagram. I see you guys hopping on. Okay, let's keep going. So pending luxury sales dropped nearly 10%. That's the largest decline since August of 2023. Closed luxury sales fell 6.5% in April. Luxury home inventory grew 7% to its highest figure since 2021. So then that leads us to this article that a lot of people have been quoting. This is the one that Matt said his clients were looking at and quoting. And I think Redfin sent it out to everyone on their mailing list. So if your client ever used Redfin to see a house, they probably got this in their email. The U.S. housing market has nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers, the most on record. That will likely cause home prices to fall. I want to stress that will likely cause listing prices to fall, but most homes will maintain the value that they gained through COVID up to this point, but they may not be able to sell at their current list price. I hope that makes sense, but a lot of times people list their property at an amount that's a little higher than market value. That's most of the time what happens. And when that happens, you will see list prices decreasing to what the market value is. I don't see an instance where we have a situation like 2028 or even a situation like the last recession in which home prices dropped. It only dropped negative 1.9%. I don't see that happening. I think the next headlines you're going to see for the following weeks is going to be home price gains slow, equity being slashed, because they're counting equity as stuff that people haven't cashed out on, these theoretical high prices that people thought they would go to that they're not currently going to because the trend line was so skewed by the pandy. So be on the lookout for that, those articles and how it may impact your clients. But here are the numbers. There are nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers. So this says, oh, Scap, did you want to say something? He may have unmuted.
No, he's just an appraiser acting up over there.
No. I didn't want to. I'm sorry. I hit my mic button by accident.
He's trying. He's at the driving range. He's trying to get you to hear his new driver. So.
Please, that guy's at the drive-through.
I'm not. Look, I'm not even doing that. But I mean, no. But going to your point, Ray. I mean, I agree. We're not going to get to those levels. But again, as I said earlier, we are starting to see things kind of reduce. And when people ask me what should we do? Look, I'm not an agent. I'm not here to price your home. I'm not here to tell you what you should price it at or whatever. But when I am doing my appraisals and people ask me, so what's going on here and what happens, I'm just going to tell them straightforward. Look, you're either first or you're last. I mean, look, we're going Talladega Nights here. First or last. You could either be first to sell your home, or right now in this market, you can be last. And it kind of goes both ways. But if you're first and you sell your home, now you're good, and you kind of set that precedent of what it is. If you're last in this kind of like declining market in certain areas, well, now you're subject to everybody else around you. So just kind of think about what you need, what it is that you want to do. But here's your home price. Here's what the value range is. You decide from there, because that's not my job. Now go hire Matt Lamarche and he'll tell you, oh, well, it's $100,000 more than what's kept.
Yeah.
So,
well, you don't really need Matt Lamarche when you have Zillow.
We're good because Matt said it's $100,000 more, so we're good. So we'll just go from there. So that's all I'm saying.
And then it sells, and then the appraiser comes and tamps it down. All right. Well,
I mean, I'm just kind of saying. I'm looking at it from an appraiser standpoint and just the market reaction. And just the market reaction. Look, I can't take into account all those emotions and everything else that people have. That's what you guys do. So you guys I could appraise a house for $500,000 and you could sell it for $575,000. God bless you all. That's great. But
so
that's what you do. I just don't do that. So I mean, I'm just seeing like weird things happening out here in the markets and what's going on. So I just try to give my best and say, hey, here's what I think. And then whatever you decide to do, that's on you.
Well, this is what I want to get to too, because it's more important that it's the right timing for the client than it is the right timing for the market. Because if it's not the right timing for you to sell and you try to sell, you're going to have a bad time. If it is the right timing, you need to sell. If you want to buy. This is what's happening in the market though, and that may or may not inform your decision. When you look currently, we have 1.4 million buyers. We have 1.9 million sellers. This increase did not happen overnight. It actually started happening. The divide started to happen in February of 2024, where we were no longer negative on the sellers, or through COVID. Let's see, what was this? December of 2021. We had 1.4 million sellers, and we had at the same time, I'm getting November numbers, 2.3 million. So we had, and this is what Lawrence Yun was saying back then, we're 1 million homes short in inventory and all this other stuff. And we were at that time, and clearly that's because people could get a rate for 2%, right? They could go buy whatever they wanted. Their money would go further. And if you could buy a house for 2%, now you go out and look at that same house and it costs you financially, if you're getting a loan, about triple that price. So because the rate is now at 6 to 7%. So this is a oversimplified explanation, but there are more buyers but they're not interested in buying currently. And there's a lot of buyers that are coming to us that are first-time home buyers, and a lot of the move-up sellers, it's pretty quiet, because unless they have to move for a job change or something like that, they're staying put. And that has to do with them holding a 2.5% mortgage, but looking at the next house, they just want a 50% increase in space, but it's going to cost them triple or quadruple. Main house values over on Instagram. What's up? Main_house_value says, I can see how we know how many sellers we have, but how do we know how many buyers we have? I'm wondering if they're doing some backwards calculating based on trends. They could also be looking at the number of mortgage applications, but that doesn't take into account cash. So maybe they're making some estimations there for the cash. The data was MLS data, Redfin data, and at the bottom, they usually have a disclosure that tells you how they got the data. Let's see. Methodology. The number of sellers in the market is simply active listings, or the total number of MLS. Because it's not a similar metric measuring how many buyers are actively in the market, we developed one. We look at active listings and pending sales from the MLS to determine a fraction of the homes that are on the market that will sell within a given month. Analogously, we estimate a fraction of the buyers. So they're basically looking at an absorption rate type of metric is what they're looking at. So how many buyers purchased last month, the month before that, the month before that, how many buyers are buying. So if there's 10 homes on the market and every month in the last 3 months, you've had 5 buyers, then you know that there's 50% of the buyers in the market versus the sellers. I think it's that. I'm way oversimplifying their methodology, but that's about what they're looking for. It's not based on Redfin traffic or customer acquisition data. So interesting. All right.
I was going to say the cash could be higher than historical values in the past too, because I don't know if you guys saw the same data I saw, but like 40% of homeowners own their home outright now.
Yeah.
And so while we've seen more content, at least here in Atlanta, not nationwide, I don't know what's happening in your area, but at least here we've seen a lot more contingencies to sell or lease a property to purchase the next one, with a lot of leases.
Interesting. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people come out of leases to purchase because their leases have gone up, but that's an interesting.
A lot of equity.
Yeah.
A lot of equity.
We have an article. No, I'm not going to go right over. All right. I'm going to get to that in a second, Matt. High housing costs are keeping home buyers at bay. Price relief is in sight. This again is a Redfin article that thinks high costs along with widespread economic uncertainty are keeping would-be home buyers at bay. Pending home sales are down 1.7% from a year ago. Redfin's home buyer demand index measure of tours and buying services from Redfin agents. This is the one that they do compare with their own agents, is essentially flat from a month ago. Number of the homes that are going under contract, roughly 14% of those deals are canceled, which we already talked about. The tide is starting to turn for home buyers. Home sale prices are already falling. 11 of the 50 most populous U.S. metros had the biggest declines are in Oakland, Dallas, Jacksonville. Redfin economists in the median U.S. sale price fall by the end of 2025. All right, let me speak to a fall in the median sell price and even sometimes a fall in the average sell price. You have to keep in mind that may not mean that home prices are going down. It might mean that more homes in the bottom 1/3 or bottom half of the market is what's selling. So it could mean that that's where the activity is coming from. And it's not just a reduction of the median. It could be that fewer homes in the luxury, like you may have the same amount of homes selling in that lower price range, but fewer homes on the luxury side of the market are selling. Well, that's going to adjust your median to be lower.
So, Ray?
Yeah.
So I think there's at least two ways to look at this. One is that if you look at a historical perspective of the market and you identify the trends of, whether it's average or median as to what prices are doing, that's one thing. But sort of boots on the ground, if I have two listings, if I have a listing for $700,000, two people start bidding on it, that can go 10% higher. and then one buyer buys that house, and then another $700,000 property comes on the market, and the listing agent or the selling agent calls up and says, "Well, how many offers do you have?" And they say, "Well, we don't have any." So that guy could in essence pay up to 10% less.
Correct. Or get a whole bunch of stuff covered.
So there's sort of two different worlds spinning on different axes.
No, I don't think. What is the? I think it's
whatever
axes.
it is, but
yeah.
So and that's where it gets, I think, confusing for the client, the consumer, to understand how it all works. Well, and I think it has a lot to do with differing headlines, like buyers are all of a sudden going to get a break. Where if you look at what they get for a break over a year, then it's not going to show that much that they get that much of a break.
Yeah. It's axes.
Well, Susie Orman said,
don't follow my you're going to follow me with what Susie Orman says? Really?
Well, she used a similar example, talking about 2-3 people buying in a neighborhood, and one person buys for $300,000, and then all of a sudden the market crashes and the next person buys for $150,000, and suddenly your home price is worth half, right? Isn't that what she said?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a market crashing. It's just the level of demand goes down.
In the market correction, a change in 10%. You're using 10% a lot, man.
Yeah, it's true. I just had it happen.
Okay.
It happen.
You're right. I mean,
I don't think a market is crashing because one guy gets his house for 10% less, because then 2 more buyers come into the market, and the next house is back up and sells at the 10% higher level.
Yeah.
And I just had it happen a couple of weeks ago with a $700,000 house that sold for $770,000 with multiple offers, and then the next one came on the market and it's sitting there.
Yeah. I mean, it also could be a preference of that specific home. So I think it's going to start to be very independent of national moves. I think towards the end of the year, that's what's going to happen. I think right now that's where the spotlight is, and a lot of people are seeing some of the good news coming out of Q1 and the cutting the trade deficit in half faster than has ever happened in history, and people's incomes going up faster than has ever happened in history. So there is some positive news out there, but it's not being promoted because that would be opposite of what most media is out to do. So you have situations like this. I'm going to share this tab. U.S. home sellers are sitting on nearly $7 billion worth of listings, an all-time high. So there's more listing inventory that's sitting there. And this is an all-time high. April 2025, $698 billion worth of listing inventory is currently sitting. That's up 20.3% from a year ago. So this is what I find is interesting. The number of buyers, we just read a report that said the number of buyers has increased 18-point-something% from a year ago. I think it was 18.4. And now we're looking that the inventory sitting is at 20.3. And when I say the number of buyers, I mean the number of mortgage applications. So I'm wondering if, what we're seeing is like, when you play pinball and the little balls down there and you're pulling back and pulling back and pulling back. I think as soon as rates start to drop, if they start to drop, you're going to see that let go. And then suddenly, I just feel like the market is going to equalize, but it is not there now. So if you have somebody that needs to sell now, it's going to be and we used to say this back in 2013, 14, 15. We used to say it's a price competition. No, what did we say? It's a beauty competition in a price war. So you have to be the best price, best looking if you're going to sell in this market. Let's see if there's anything else. 44% of listings on the market are on the market for 60 plus days. There's $331 billion worth of stale inventory currently lingering on the market. So yeah, stuff sitting. Now, as a real estate agent, I have to confess that in this type of market that was heavily bent towards buyers is where we did very well. because of all the marketing and expenditures and stuff like that we do for the listings. So this is a skills-based economy as far as sellers go right now. Buyers are the easy money. Buyers are the fun ones, right? You get as many buyers as possible and you just go put offers in and you make some money. It's going to be difficult though for some real estate agents to explain their value to the buyer and then get that covered by the seller these days, because that's a big switch from what it was last time it was a buyer's market. So, and I know some of you are thinking, well, it's not a buyer's market in my area. There's still multiple offers. There may be multiple offers, but there's not 100 offers. There's not 30, 40 offers. There's like 3 or 4, maybe 10 in some of the hottest markets, but it is not what it was. You know, people are not, if you recall just a short time ago, multiple offers, people cutting an additional check, $100,000 over asking, $30,000, $40,000 deposit. I'm not going to inspect. We're going to pay the difference if there's a difference in appraisal. You know, these were normal, commonplace things in the hottest markets. So if you're sitting in a hot market and you're saying, well, my market is not a buyer's market, it's way more of a buyer's market than it was. So it's, I guess all things are kind of relative. For years, our market was in a buyer's market while everyone else was getting multiple offers. We're starting to see a buyer's market come back to us, unless it's cute and kind of perfect across the board. Okay. Despite headwinds, home sales will pick up. So this is from Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors. He says in his comments, well, where are his comments about it? Mortgage rates are the magic bullet, and we're waiting and waiting until those come down. Inflation was at 2.3% in April, Yoon said, slightly higher than the Federal Reserve's 2% implicit target. The Fed will cut interest rates once inflation is fully under control. We're not there yet, but we're very close. Homeownership is well, then it does like promotional stuff about buying a house. That was his main point. We're waiting on rates. So similar to what you guys have been seeing and what your clients have been telling you, once rates get better, it's going to be a mad dash to the market. So what do we do with our clients now? They're like, well, I'd like to buy now, but man, this rate is crazy. Don't say, date the rate, marry the house. Don't say that, because the rate may not come down. There's actually probably a lot of properties out there that may start to come on the market in which their agent told them last time, you should date the rate, marry the house. And they're starting to come. You remember the 2-1 deals, right? Where you could get 2% off your rate the first year, 1% off your rate the second year. And then the third year, you'll finally have to pay whatever that rate is. Hey, but by then rates will be down and you can refi. Turns out rates aren't currently down. So either that person is going to have to sell the home or go upside down on the home in some of these cases. So it presents a opportunity for agents who advise their client with fiduciary duty of that client in mind and not the own agent's best interest to maybe sell those properties for them and help them find something more reasonable, because they do have 2 to 3 years of appreciation that hopefully will cover the cost and expenses of moving and allow them to withdraw their equity and put it into something else. So what do you do with clients who are currently wanting to buy now, but they're also seeing the rates that are high? You just tell them what's happening in the market. Right now, there's a lot of inventory. You have a lot of choice. You get your closing costs paid, but this is going to be the rate. And it may be the rate for a while. It may not be the rate for a while. We don't know. If the rate drops, you could refi. And there are some mortgage companies out there that are still offering a no-cost refi after a year or two if rates go down. So you could take advantage of that, but rates may stay the same. There are a lot of people that are also doing the ARM deals. I'm nervous of ARM deals because I lived through 2006 and 7 and 8, and I just saw a lot of those things go wrong real quick when the market didn't do what people thought was going to happen. But there are a lot of people buying the 5 and 10-year adjustable rate mortgages, taking a very low rate now, hoping that by the time it adjusts, the rates will be different. But that person also might just sell, right? After 5 years, they got some equity built up and the rate didn't adjust, but hey, I've lived here 5 years. I'm going to sell and go somewhere else. So that could also be possible. And just redo an ARM somewhere else. Some ARMs allow you to refi the ARM at that time as well. So I think there are some solutions out there, but ultimately if the buyer says, no, I'm going to wait on the rates, they also have to be prepared to be in a much more competitive market that might be multiple offers, offering above asking, paying additional monies down, getting rid of some concessions, not getting your closing costs paid. Those are all things that they're going to have to be prepared to deal with if they wait on the market to get towards 5%, when a huge portion of the buyers are going to come back into the market to purchase something at the exact same time. So I think as long as you're advising your clients and just saying, hey, if you're willing to do that, that's great. We can do that at that time. I'll let you know when I see an adjustment in the rates. But if they buy now, I think it's a real opportunity for a lot of buyers that can afford it. All right, guys. Well, that is it for this week. I can't find my music. Thank you guys for joining me. And for those of you who are able to chime in and talk about what was happening in your market, I appreciate that. That's why I do the show live, is to get the feedback from you guys. So Matt, Elizabeth, Scap, Terry, Jack, and some of you guys that were commenting, let's see, Memphis with Shanita. Who else do we have? Main House of Values. What's up, Rick? All you guys, thanks so much for Stephen Johnston. You told me about no volume, and then you were quiet for the rest of the show, but I know you're there. So thank you guys for joining, and hopefully I'll see some of you on the 12th next week.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah, what's up, man?
You just might see the only appraiser you've ever known up there in Nashville.
Hey, that'd be great, man. That's why I sent you the ticket. I want to be able to punch your face in person. So, thanks everybody for joining. We might have to do the show on Tuesday. It depends on what time I'll be leaving for the conference. I might be able to get it done, but I think I got to be there like at 6 for a speaker thing on the 11th. So if so, that's kind of too close. So I'll probably I might do it earlier in the morning or something like that next week so we can get in the show. We'll have something. All right, guys, thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things if you're there. And if you're listening to the podcast, share it with somebody. I appreciate you guys. Bye.